Robert West, and I'm going to talk about these riots in Portland. I keep hearing about how these people are protesting. They're saying peaceful protest, peaceful protest. We want more rights as peaceful protesters. The problem is when you sit there and do a peaceful protest, right? Peaceful protest doesn't mean going out and attacking people. Peaceful protest doesn't mean going out and harming people, damaging property, and stuff like that. There's a event that comes around a lot during the protests. Okay, a peaceful protest like a march or even a rally where there's no violence, everyone's allowed to attend, and stuff like that. Now, yesterday, I was attacked on that corner right there by Antifa. Now the protest people, the people that are setting up these riots slash protests, sit there and say, "Well, it's only a small group that's doing this." Well, it's a small group that you're allowing to come in and do this. It's not a group of people that all of a sudden, hey, we're going to come in and do something. These people know what Antifa is going to do, and they allow them in there. They allow them to come in and damage people's property. They allow them to come in and damage public property. Now, I've seen the videos and stuff for downtown, okay? And I've seen videos of what's happening with the federal agents. Now, let me remind you, federal agents are law enforcement, right? Now, yeah, they're wearing their camouflage colors. If you notice, most SWAT teams carry camouflage colors. Specialized teams wear camouflage colors. Okay, that's not... So to call them troops is a flat-out lie. That's a talking point for Antifa. Okay, that's not the truth. They're not troops. They're law enforcement from other countries, different jurisdictions. ATF, FBI, all that different stuff. Okay? So what happens is they come into Portland, they get mustered into a group, they come into Portland to quell the riots. Okay? The people are painting and damaging the federal courthouse, right? Attacking federal officers, and they're going, oh, we can't have this. We can't have federal officers defending the federal property and defending federal officers. Oh, that's a shame. We can't have that. That's a crime. They're violating people's civil rights. Problem is, these people that are crying about the violation of civil rights don't know what civil rights really is. And that's what a crying shame is. You know, that's a crying shame right there, that they don't even know people's civil rights. And yet they sit there and say, well, our rights to protest are being violated because we can't go out and loot, rob, rape, etc. We can't do all this. So our rights are being violated. Another sign of racism right here. I'm going to take it down because it's a sign of racism. Yep. Black power. Not power to the people. It's black power. So I'm taking it down. I mean, let's look at it this way. If you have a white fist up there saying white power, they say those are Nazis, right? Well, I can say the same thing here. Unfortunately, they had blacks in World War II that fought for the Nazis too. And anyone that studied history would know that. So I consider these racist. And I will not allow racism of any kind in my area. So when I see him, I take him down. Can't have racism. No, we can't. I'm totally against racism. See, here's another one right here. Like I said, we can't have racism in our city. Racism can be everywhere else but our city. So, like I said, if I see racism or racist stuff, I will take it down. Because we shouldn't have racism in our country. And black power is racist. I mean, look at it this way. Also, it talks about black superiority. Well, if you say white superiority, shit, you're a Nazi. So, let's see. Say their name, we'll take that down. These have innocent, but also people that attack the cops. Anyone that's black, doesn't matter if you're if you attack the cops or not. Then, if you pull a gun on a cop and shoot a cop and you're black, and he shoots and kills you, he's a racist. So, but yeah, I mean, I've been asked several times by a lot of different people what I think of the protests and stuff. And like I said, it's racist. It's a Black Lives Matter falls under or believes in a Marxist type political system. So if they like Marxism so much, why don't they go to Russia? Enjoy themselves. People can't see, or I should say, people can barely see what's over their nose. They don't see what's going on around the country. These countries in Africa that kick the whites out. That's what they want to see here in the United States. Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of patriots out there, and there's a lot of people out there that don't want to see that. Okay? If this thing goes to anarchy, you're gonna see a whole bunch of Antifa dead. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's reality. So here's a recycle bin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting this stuff in where it belongs. See that right there? Racism. There's no place in Portland for racism of any kind. People need to stand up for their country. They need to stand up for their people. They need to realize that if you don't stand up to fascists, fascists will take over. As you can see, I properly put those signs in the proper place. They can be recycled. They can be made into more paper, something that could be more worthwhile. How you doing today? Looks like, and may or may not be Antifa. But yeah, I mean, it's a real sad thing in America where the politicians don't even like the police. DHS sent their secretary of DHS came over here and wanted to talk to the police and see what they need and stuff like that. And city and state leaders told them to pack their shit and leave. Now, here's the problem. If they left, who'd be there to protect the courthouse? No one. Our federal courthouse would be just like the county one. 47 paint jobs on the courthouse to paint off all that graffiti. That's a shame right there. And you know something? These protest groups aren't paying for it. No, they're not. They should be paying for it, but they're not. And of course, my phone is not going to show all the comments. It is racist, bud. Doing a good dealing with the trash. Man, you're spun. What's his stuff? I am hearing about this guy. Is it true? I don't know what you're hearing about me, but I tell you what, Antifa talks a lot of shit because they can. I'm 55 years old, and a lot of the Antifa are between 14 and 25. So, a heads up, I shouldn't even be able to beat them. But they don't deal with me heads up. They bring 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they got to pepper spray me. Oh yeah, got to show how brave they really are. But they say that's for fascism. You know, you've got to deal with fascists that way. Okay. Someone sat there and said, that's what I thought, just lies. How am I lying? If you Google the fist, the black fist, you'll see that it stands for black power. Okay? And if you can have black power, but you can't have white power, then you're treating one race differently than you're treating another race. Okay? I mean, I'm not for any power. I look at it this way. All races should be equal in everything. There shouldn't be laws that are just for the blacks. There shouldn't be laws just for the whites. There shouldn't be laws just for the Hispanics. I think laws should be for everyone. Yeah, Antifa is lying about me. See that right over there in that car? That's a nice looking lady right there. That's the kind of stuff I like. So, yeah, it just boggles my mind that, people accept black racism. If you look on Facebook and stuff, you see a bunch of white people being attacked by blacks, and people are liking that and accepting that. And that is really, really sad to watch people get hurt and people liking that, especially when it's a racist attack. I don't care if it's a white person, if it's white people attacking a black or black people attacking a white, it's still racism. The motive is still racist. That's what's really sad about it, you know? And there's not too much anyone can really do about it. I can go around and pull this stuff down and talk about the counter racism in the Portland area and what's happening throughout the United States, and how for years blacks been treated wrongly by police. And that's what cop watchers do. We go out, we film the police, make sure they don't violate people's rights, and help people file complaints. But now that the blacks feel that they got to step in the door, they got to go around and attack whites. And they got to put it up on YouTube, and they got to put it up on Facebook, and all that other stuff. And that's really, really sad. Like I said, I will not put up with racism of any kind. And Black Lives Matters is a racist group. Okay? Because that's what they concentrate. Oh, the blacks. What about the Hispanics? What about the Indians? Let's relook at this. Stuff that in our history that people really don't know about. Back before there was a large police force, we had the cavalry enforcing laws. We had governors that put bounties out on Indians. We had whole Indian tribes slaughtered. We had people come in from other countries. These people that came in from other countries were treated bad, killed, weren't paid right, and stuff like that. Then I hear, well, what about slavery? Well, what about slavery? The first slaves in this country were white. First slaves in this country was white, and that's really sad. And then when all kinds of problems came out over that, they turned around and decided that we can't have white slaves because there's too much bad publicity over it. Too many white people are getting hurt and stuff like that. So we decided we'd make Indian slaves. So we had Indian slaves for a while. Well, they weren't being treated too well either. So they would just run away and disappear. It was hard to track down Indians. They knew the land, they knew how to forage, they knew how to they knew how to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Someone said, "Get out of the way, trafficker." Whatever that means. But it was a black lady, so I'm not too upset. So yeah, I mean, that's what so all these people were slaves. But you don't hear about that. No, you hear about the black slaves. Well, how did we get black slaves in this country? We had slavers that went over to Africa and bought blacks. They bought them. Usually traded guns, other items, and what was it that we? What was it that we? Um, what was it that? What were they? They were from other tribes that was taken over that surrendered, that felt it wasn't necessary to protect their family and their people, otherwise known as cowards. So they let these tribes take over. These tribes turned around and bought guns, and that's how we got the blacks. If you think for a minute that we went over there and did offensive operations and took them here by force, you're gladly mistaken, or you're wishfully mistaken. If you were caught by the British, which was also over there, or any number of other European nations, you were hung if you had slaves. So the slavers had to get in and get out before they were caught by the British. We didn't have a big standing army at that time. We only had a small one. And it was basically based in the United States. So what it is we yeah, unfortunately that is nowadays. Power only does come out from a gun. And no, I've loaded up several videos on my YouTube channel that's not live streaming. But I was watching what was being said on the live streams. How you doing today?
Okay, how about you?
All right. And it made me absolutely sick. I hate the fact that they're calling these federal officers or federal cops troops. They're not troops. They're not military. I don't even think they're paramilitary. I think they're just law enforcement that basically, hey, just like Portland. Portland, if they need riot cops, they bring in officers from the street. You know, if the riot cops can't deal with it, they bring in officers from the street and put more officers up. That's how they do it. So, but when the feds do it, oh, it's troops. But yeah, that's a talking point for Antifa and Black Lives Matters. We need these racist cops to be racists. Okay? When racism and killing of minorities has always been a thing. And to sit there and say that, well, blacks are killed more than, percentage-wise, you can use mathematics to do any percentage you want. The truth of the matter is there's more whites killed in this country than there are blacks. Okay? And two, if you want to look at the minority situation being killed, we killed a whole lot of Indians. I mean, we massacred whole tribes of Indians. Percentage-wise, a lot more Indians died than any other race. Okay? Let's look at the Chinese. A lot of Chinese died. Back in, I think it was the 1800s, don't quote me, but they had a massacre of Chinese on the Snake River. I think they said something like 99 Chinese were killed. But no, I mean, it's sad to see anyone killed, especially by law enforcement, because we expect law enforcement to protect us, to keep us safe. But sometimes to keep the public safe, they have to kill someone. And when that happens, admittedly, shooting that 12-year-old kid over there in Cleveland, yeah, the officer should have tried. The killing of George Floyd, yeah, he did some really bad stuff, but he didn't deserve to die like that. That's why we got a thing called a justice system, and they can wheel out the punishment according to the law. Police have no authority to do any judging. That's not their position.
What's the bee doing?
It's doing good.
All right.
So I mean, it's sad that people feel that they have to go out and commit violent acts so that other people can see who they are. You know, I really anticipated getting jumped for pulling down those Black Power signs, but I did, and only some lady yelled at me saying, "Fuck you, trafficker." Well, I don't know what I'm trafficking. Videos, maybe. I mean, all my stuff's transparent, so I really don't worry too much about that. I'm either out making videos, taking care of my family, or doing walking or stuff like that. I don't have time for all that other crap. No. How you doing today? So yeah, this is Portland. If you listen to the left, we got troops on the streets. If you listen to the right, it's totally unsafe. And you know something? The left is 100% wrong, and the right is about 70% wrong. Yeah, downtown is unsafe, and it's unsafe to walk where there's a protest going on. If you're right wing, I'm classified as right wing. See, look at that. Now, see, that's from a peaceful protest. I bet you if I went over there and protested at one of their houses and spray painted a white power or something like that, I'm sure they would sit there and say, well, that's not a peaceful protest. That's racism. And racism cannot be peaceful. That's really sad when you have an opinion like that. You know. If you did that at their place of work, they would flip. Yeah, so one of the people said, what about the Japanese that invaded China? Yeah. A lot of Chinese died then. A lot of them were raped. People in this country really don't know what racism is. They never studied World War II. They never really seen what happened with the Jews. Um, they've never seen what happened with the Christian Crusades. Um, they just never studied history. All they do is sit around and listen to what someone else tells them, and that's law. And what they read and see on the media or on Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that, hey, that's the truth, 100%. No, our colleges now are teaching people to hate. It's funny, you go to these places like Portland, stuff like that, you go, hey, I want a conservative instructor that wants to teach me on history. That's not going to happen. What you're going to get is you're going to get a history lesson of the United States and all the bad stuff we did. Not what all the bad stuff everyone else did. No, let's not look at the slaves that went from Europe to Africa. No, why should we worry about that? Mass forced work, mass rape, not a problem as long as it's done by a black on a white person. That's called justice. Well, it's justice over there, it's not justice here. Justice is a hard thing. It's hard to explain to people.
Supreme Court has a power, has a constitutional right to explain it.
Right.
Why have it wrong?
Right.
Yes, so we need to use it, not just to do things that we don't understand what the Constitution say, what the culture say, what the history say, what the value says.
Right.
Yes.
So what do you think about these protesters that are coming out, burning places,
The
looting?
protest is legal.
Yeah.
The protest has a constitutional right to expression.
Right.
But the action on how they conduct themselves by banning it is also becoming illegal. So in one way you're doing a legal thing, on another way you're doing a illegal thing. So it becomes a contradiction. That's why the Constitution has to come in.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with you. You have a right to protest,
But you have to protest with legality.
but you can't attack other people.
No, you have to protest with legality.
Right.
Not with illegality.
Yeah, you got to protest legally.
Yes.
I agree with you there. You guys hear that? That's what's sad. Is I can talk to a homeless guy that will sit there and say that these protesters are doing things wrong. You have a constitutional right to protest. I'm not arguing that. You do. You do not have a constitutional right to attack other people, burn other people's stuff, vandalize their stuff. And this thing about, well, it's only property. I mean, we're talking about people's lives here. Well, I hate to say it, man. People spend their whole life getting the money up to make a business, and to have rioters go trash it, take their stuff, you know, they work their life for that. And they lose it because they're the wrong race, or they're selling something that other people want, or they're selling stuff from another country that they don't like. You know, the question is, what is justice? What is fair? Okay? If I sat there and seen just the blacks being arrested, I'd sit there and say, hey, check this out, something's wrong here. If I seen just the blacks getting tickets, I'd sit there and say, hey, why is only the blacks getting tickets? Because we can't, us as a nation, can't have racism, we can't have hatred in our country. And that's what we got. We have hatred. We have patriots that want to kill Antifa. We have Antifa that wants to kill anyone that disagrees with them. And that's what's really sad about this country right now. People don't realize the damage that they're doing to this country, to other people, and stuff like that. Damaging people's property is not how you get your point across. In fact, it does just the opposite. It turns people against you. I mean, if you want to protest, march down the sidewalk and protest. If you jaywalk, go straight across. I mean, who cares on a protest? But if you're going to sit there and step in the middle of traffic and block traffic, something's wrong there. That needs to get handled, you know. You're going to piss people off. More and more you're seeing cars driving through protesters. Why? Because people are getting tired of waiting forever for a protest for protesters to move on so they can get home or so they can get to work. Protesters aren't worried about that crap. No, they're not worried about you getting to work. They're not worried about your job. They're not worried about you getting home to your kids. They're not worried about none of that. They're worried about one thing, that's protesting. And it's really, really sad that we allow these people to damage people's property, to yell insults, to attack people, and stuff like that. It's really sad. But yet, it's happening more and more. This is Bob. I'm going to sign off right now. My phone's getting low and I'm going to run out of juice.